working for you. A weekly talk radio program which highlights developments of national interest and the activities of your St. Kitts Nevis government. Join host Lesroy Williams as he presents news, views, reports, and interviews about everything regarding the activities of the Team Unity government and the building of our communities and the development of St. Kitts Nevis. Tune in and call in to interact with your government and share your views regarding the upward forward development of your community and our beautiful Twin Island Federation. Working for you is weekly, every Wednesday live from 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. on ZIZ Radio, Win FM, and Sugar City FM with rebroadcast on participating stations.
Pleasant good afternoon. We welcome you to another Working for You program. I am your host, Lesroy Williams. Wherever you are, we hope that you will enjoy today's program, as we have two very special guests on our program today. I have with me the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security, Mr. Osman Petty, and also the top cop, the Commissioner of Police of the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force, Mr. Ian Quayle. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Of course, we know that crime is foremost on our minds in the country, and it affects all of us, and all of us have a part to play in its reduction, in its eradication. All institutions are important in joining against the fight against crime. That is the school, the church, the family, of course, which is the basic unit of society, and all other institutions play a key role. Of course, it is important that there are strategies and a plan in place from the position of the police force and the government in terms of how to tackle the problem of crime. And so there is a National Crime Reduction and Prevention Strategy plan, which we are going to be talking about today. And we're going to be looking a little bit at the background, describing the strategy, looking at the main components and so on, and in terms of how it will be implemented. And looking at the role in terms of what the police would play in terms of the implementation of this strategy. Now, Mr. Petty, the National Crime Reduction and Prevention Strategy, can you give us some background information to this?
Thank you, Mr. Williams. We all know that crime has been happening in the country for a long time. It is unfortunate that we have this program. There seems to be a bit of an escalation, which tends to detract from some of the positive efforts which are being made. Crime has many roots. Some of the roots are economic, such as employment, poverty. Some of them have to do with the social environment, the home and the church and the school, and of course family structures, which I mentioned, the home. We have been working so far with the 6-point police plan. We have also established the police strategic plan, and the strategy that I'm going to elaborate does not in any way prevent those plans. In fact, the plan, the 6-point plan and the police strategic plan are all embedded in the national strategy which we have developed. We are working with a framework called EDER, which stands for enforcement, which is the work of the police largely, and the security forces. Diagnosis, which has to do with trying to come to grips with the roots of the crime, what is causing the crime. Education relates to the schools and how we deal with children who may be at risk, youth at risk, and rehabilitation, of course, would be for those who are imprisoned. In so doing, we engage in January to April a consultant, Dr. Niels Chaitan, who spent 3 months in the Federation working with schools and making presentation in the community and really presenting to all who were interested. On the 9th of February, we had a National Crime Symposium at the Marriott Hotel. And at that symposium, 12 roots of crime were elaborated by the keynote presenter, which was Dr. Chaitan. The 12 roots of crime were mental illness, unmanaged impulses, uncontrolled confrontations, criminal deportation, addictions and compulsions, the inability to deal with consequences, media, music and web influence, greed and selfishness, image and profile enhancement, hopelessness and desperation, matters of the heart, and loss, grief and hurt. It was felt that somewhere within there, the roots of crime could be found. That is, or they are what have been driving criminal activity in the Federation. There were over 200 participants, and we asked the participants, who were taken from various stakeholder groups, the youth, education, social services, the Chamber of Industry and Commerce, the private sector businesses, of course the security services, the health department, and so on, to determine which roots of crime were germane to their profession, and to do a few things. They were asked to highlight how feasible is the root of crime for them to address in their profession, what initial activity they could generate. They were to create an attention-grabbing caption that would drive the strategy, and develop a long-term strategy that could be implemented, and also ways in which they could measure success. And so after the presentations in the morning session, they spent the entire afternoon coming up with suggestions. Following that, and I have to say that the entire symposium was sponsored by the Private Sector Coalition for Support of Security Initiatives. Following that, there was a workshop in Nevis on the 2nd of May, where the outputs from that symposium were again examined and discussed by a similar group in Nevis, smaller but similar composition in Nevis. And then, taking the suggestions from the symposium and the workshop, my office then collaborated with the various stakeholder groups. We compiled the suggestion, because you would suggest that you would know that a few stakeholder groups may have looked at the same route, so we combined them, collated, and came up with a document. And this is the document which is before you at this time. Now I would then elaborate the strategy.
Okay.
Okay.
Fine. No.
Yeah, go ahead. I just want to say the strategy, as I'm using it, and I'm going to use it in this presentation, is that we are now going to mobilize every stakeholder group that was there to implement the activities and strategies that they said they were going to do, or they are going to do, to address the roots of crime. That is the general strategy, to have a community-wide approach to it, rather than just the police. Of course, the police is part of the big picture, And they have to do what the police and the army and so on continue to do. But we want to bring in the church, the chamber, the schools,
Yes.
social, all of the other stakeholder groups to do what they have said. So the strategy is a national strategy, and we hope it will be owned by the stakeholder groups that developed it, that developed the action plans and so on. Okay?
Okay, now, Mr. Quealy, you have a special role in terms of the police force. You are the top cop, and at some point, of course, the buck stops with you in terms of the implementation of the build out to the strategy and the crime reduction and prevention framework in the Federation. Now, what role does the police play in all of this?
All right, thank you, Mr. Williams, and I'm happy to join the PS on this occasion to elaborate the strategy, the National Crime Reduction and Prevention Strategy. I think that this is an opportune time for us to come to the public to let them know that we are serious about crime and the fear of crime within the community, and that this strategy encompasses not only the police, who is mandated to do as Mr. Petty indicated, the E and the ERA, the enforcement. So we are the enforcement aspect, and so coming out of that enforcement aspect, we would have created our 6-point plan of action and strategic plan, which forms part of the national strategy. And so the police on a whole will be continuing to not only engage the communities in the way that we should. We want the community to see us as their friends and not as their enemies. And that is why it is so important that all the other aspects of society get on board, because it's a community outreach. We cannot, do not in any way suppose that we can do it alone. And we have built out our strategies that we see necessary to tackle the various crimes. Now, as we stand now, the major concern that we have is those crimes that involve violence. We have the homicides, but we also have a lot of break-ins and what we call crimes of opportunities. And so from that perspective, while we educate the public as to how they can prevent these crimes, we want to at the same time be in a position, if those crimes are not prevented, to be able to detect them and bring the perpetrators to justice. Speaking about crimes of violence, those are the crimes that drive the most fear within our communities. And these are people, these crimes are committed by persons from within the community. These persons have parents who go to the church. And this is why we are talking about an all-inclusive and wholesome approach. They have people who go to the church. There are persons who are involved in sporting activities. And I'm sure we will, Mr. Petty will and myself will elaborate later as to how we as a police organization would want to engage the youths, because most of the criminal activities that are being committed are committed by young people within that 15 to, let's say, 30 age range. And so we would want to see how we can engage them, in a meaningful way. And it's for that reason why part of our strategy is to engage them in the early stages. We have a number of programs within the schools. We visited our school liaison program, where we would have an officer who's attached to school. But we can go into greater details later as to the TAPS program, Teen and Police Service, and what role they can play. And we can speak also about school resource officers and officers who will be assigned to not only as a liaison to the school, but to play a more meaningful role, having identified the youths that are at risk, so that we can, a local term that is used, nip it in the bud. And we want to prevent things before we have to detect things.
Ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Yes.
We always hear that proverb, that old proverb. So the emphasis really should be on preventing crimes, and you mentioned the important role that the family plays in this, in really socializing children in a way that somehow they would not get involved, and the church plays a role as well, as you mentioned. But we have so many churches, and you know, you ask yourself, with all these churches, why it is that the society is like that. I suppose sometimes maybe we are not doing our work.
I'm pleased to say that as a result of this strategy, following the symposium, the church, and let me say before I go any further that at the top of the strategy as outlined in this booklet, we have the church. Because outside of the school, apart from the school, the church really is the nexus that gets to most people in St. Kitts. St. Kitts is primarily a Christian society in the sense that most people in St. Kitts, I don't have any statistics, but I would say over 80% have had some relationship with the church. And so at the top of this strategy is the church. And I'm pleased to say that the church has begun to mobilize in collaboration with the Ministry of Ecclesiastical Affairs. And just this week, they had a big coming together of church leaders from all, if not from most, if not all of the denominations in St. Kitts, to put forward their own agenda and to include what is in this strategy as we look towards the church playing a lead role. And so I am quite pleased that the church has now begun to do the kind of thing which we've been saying all along. You lead. We know that you're Anglicans and you're Methodists and what have you, but for crime you have to come together. And so far I've met personally with the Seventh-day Adventists, the Evangelical Association reps and Christian Council reps and so on. And the message has been, look, this is a national effort by the church. When you get back into your congregation, you can become Roman Catholic. But here we need something which everybody buys into. For example, the Adventists may have a training session, as they said, for dealing with grief. There's no reason why persons from other congregations can come, you see, and how to deal with grief and trauma and so on.
Right.
And so I am pleased to say that the church has mobilized, or is mobilizing, and we're going to do the same thing in the Chamber of Industry and Commerce is also a major partner, and they have already begun to put in place the things that are in here, even before we launched. And so we look forward to them, and they've been linking with education. We've had meetings with the social services, community development, and as we go along we will meet with all of the other stakeholders in here, because the way this document is set out, we have the root of crime, and then we have all of the stakeholder groups that are associated with some aspect of it, or who would have presented strategies and actions to address it. I want to talk a bit about the schools, because the school education is a major part. Mr. Williams, a 17-year-old shot somebody in St. Paul's, and he should have been in school.
Yes.
A 19-year-old killed his sister, also they say. He's alleged.
Suspected.
Suspected. With another suspected 18-year-old.
And somebody is, you're seeking another person from the police press release.
Yes.
I'm just saying they just left school. In Nevis, people on the, a youth on the playing field, cricket, he got shot. What I'm saying that these didn't just happen overnight. These people were showing those tendencies while they were in school. And so we have to step up what we do in school. Mr. Chaitan came in March, in January to April, and he did some initial work. We want to move along those lines and intensify. So, Quilly mentioned the TAPS program, that means Teen and Police Service Academy. It's about an 11-week intense program where police teach youth in schools topics and discuss topics associated with crime, drugs, and the whole works. But we, in collaboration with education, and this comes from education, they recommend we go a bit further, that we have what we call TAPS clubs. And so we try to hold the students from Form 1 to 2 and 2 right through the school. So it's not just about doing a TAPS program and that's it. It will be done with them throughout the school, and there will be activities. And in September we know that we want to introduce cadets in all of the schools in St. Kitts. We have identified some police who are going to be what we are calling a resource unit, who are going to teach the TAPS, but they're also going to be working with the schools and with the cadet program, and also in the community. I'm trying to identify a set of police in collaboration with the commissioner who are really going to walk the communities to try to meet some of these youth on the block, to try to meet some of those families. I think that is something which is lacking in terms of police, especially going into the communities, and so we are identifying a team who are going to do that. And Mr. Chaitan will be calling to speak to groups, not just in community centers, but right on the block where they are in a shop or something, or go to families which so we are trying to intensify a systematic presence of police in the communities, and have so far divided up the police into certain communities where the police themselves has a presence. They have already, some of them have developed some rapport with the youth, and so we want to build on that, and so that is really beginning to roll out as soon as possible, hopefully by about next week. As a matter of fact, this week we want to start some activities in a few communities. Social services, the ministry department tells us that they have some programs both here and in Nevis and so on, which we are saying, yes, you have them, but people don't know about them, and you need to intensify, or perhaps look again at how they're done and take into consideration some of the things that are here and expand. And so give one example of, in relation to, say, returning deportees. So people say deported from the United States, criminals or whatever. As it stands right now, when they come back, they know nothing really happens organized. The police are told we're sending back John Brown or John whatever, and maybe the police watch him, look at him, but there's nothing organized to say what are you going to do with him when he gets here. To really deal with that deportee, the police, social services, education, people empowerment, and because you can't just let them come and roam.
Yeah.
And so this document, this strategy that we have, say, look, let us get together and come up with a way of dealing with criminal deportees and so on. So this is the approach we're taking. It's not something which is going to solve the immediate problem, because the police and the security force, we need a break. We need some time for this to work, and so we need to stop the shooting so that we can get some traction to this. But the answers are not going to be short term, because we can stop it for a week or a month or 2 months and then they start again. We have to get into the communities, and we are mobilizing police, selected police people who are willing and able to go into the communities and work. And Dr. Chaitan is here, he has a full program. The primary schools need some attention, much attention, and so he is going to focus a lot on the primary schools. The high school need some attention, but we have the TAPS in the high school and so on. So Dr. Chaitan's role in the high school will merely be on referrals, difficult families, difficult students, but he will have an intense agenda for the primary schools, as well as community presentations.
I just want to add something. I just want to add something, because I think it's important. As the PACE speaks about education, and we see education as something that is critical to driving the success of this plan, and that is why we would have gone into the schools, because when it comes to education, we would want to make sure that we emphasize character building and the value of self-worth to these young persons, because once you have that moral underpinning sorted out with them, you can have a different frame of mind. Because all these, I believe, are plans that would help us to foster a better community. Because at that forum, we should be able to teach them some sound values and discipline. Because discipline is very broad.
It is.
It's very broad, but it is critical if we are going to move towards a model citizenship.
Yes.
You know, it's critical, and we have to, in large measure, look at the psychological aspects, so that these persons who are can have the necessary counseling if it's needed, but more than anything, that moral compass, the guidance that is required to steer them away and channel all those negative energies into positive things. So I think education is one of the real critical underpinnings, and that's why we would want to, as much as practicable, engage the at-risk youths at the school. The fact is, the children spend a whole lot of time at school. When you look at it, the time of the day they engage with the teachers accounts for a large percentage of their time away from their home, and that is where we believe good values could be inculcated in them, so that they can be able to analyze situations and move along that straight and narrow path. I think that would be really critical.
You know, there's good education and there's bad education.
Right.
Because some of these people in the society are being educated, but they are not being educated in the things that are, would make for a very righteous and wholesome society. For example, educated to the point where they can probably take up a gun and plan something and go and kill somebody and hope not to be detected, or to kill somebody and then to go and hide the body, all kind of a thing. So it's they're not using their intelligence, so to speak, for the right things, but rather to carry out things that are antisocial and so on. And there seems to be a lot of anger, Mr. Petty, and I am wondering, where is all this anger coming from? And to counteract this anger, I don't know if in the schools you have anger management, because you have anger, you have an anger problem, and you have a conflict with somebody, and then that anger becomes destructive. Destructive anger. Anger is not a bad thing, because it's an emotion, but it must be controlled and so on. I mean, anger comes about, usually they say it's the emotion that is tied to injustice. When you see something that is wrong, you know, you feel angry about it. But do I take up a gun and go and shoot somebody? Once ago we were angry. People had anger. But you will cuss somebody 2 words and that's it. But now you have the gun. So it seems to me that in the mix of all of this, the violent crime that you spoke about, Mr. Petty, is that gun. How do we get this gun thing under control?
Well, a couple of things. We have recognized that firearms, really, have been the weapon of choice in a lot of these violence. And that is why, from an enforcement standpoint, we have to be engaged on a consistent basis in targeting operations where we can target the source of these illegal firearms. I make the point every time I have an opportunity to do so, that we don't manufacture guns in this region. Yet we are having a lot of guns here, and it's the ease and access to those firearms that is really creating the issue. And again, going back to where we are trying to get that education, so that not only the youths but the parents can understand the value of human relations. They will come to understand that the use of guns would only be destructive. We are finding a lot of guns, and so while some persons criticize, and it is all well and good to criticize, we have so far for the year we moved about 23 or 24 guns. We only half here of the streets, but yet there's still a lot. And the thing that bothers me as an individual and as the leader of the organization, the police force, is that there are persons within the society who actually make these guns accessible to these youngsters. We want to be frank here, is that these youngsters cannot on their own afford to be purchasing and bringing these guns here. So they are players, and that is where our intelligence is kicking in, and that's why not only would we continue to do our targeted operations, we have to build out our intelligence capability that will capture all of these areas. We are faced with a situation where a lot of the firearms based on our intelligence comes through our porous borders. Our porous borders, and we are taking measures that we will to address that. But in essence, what we are finding is that these guns come in, and the guns are used with impunity. We also are aware that there are persons within the society who are aware where these guns are, including parents of their own children, but they do nothing. And when they become a victim, that's when they realize that we should have done something. So the whole, we really, from a policing standpoint, would like to see the guns be off the streets of our communities and the persons involved in this. So that is why going forward we will continue, but you will see a more aggressive approach. A more aggressive approach is really needed. So while we practice hard policing we have to balance it with the soft policing, and that is why we have our initiatives in the school.
Yeah.
So it's a balance of hard and soft policing, but we have to do it if we are to get a grip on what is happening.
Mr. Quill, you see, what you don't know is that you remove 23 guns off the street. But at the very same time, you're removing 23, but you don't know how many are coming in.
And that's a fair comment. That's a fair comment.
You know, so really and truly, sometimes when you think you are somehow winning the war in terms of the removal of the guns on the street, sometimes twice the amount that you would have removed, or 3 times the amount that you would have number that you have removed coming in. We don't know. And to me, that is really the scary thing.
Well, the customs and excise department, they're part of this strategy, and they are putting in place measures to beef up their own surveillance and at their end, and so we can only work with them. We are trying. Just yesterday, we have been discussing the improvement of our canine unit, because canines can help find guns and drugs and so on. So we have to continue that type of operation and surveillance. I want to just continue on the booklet. One of the things which was highlighted at the symposium was disrespect. And disrespect was promoted as perhaps the main cause of crime. And disrespect, of course, starts from way down, and it builds up to a point where you don't care what you do or what you say. So somebody rush out and go and push you down and go on, and they say nothing to you. And if you say anything, they want to abuse you and then
Right.
So disrespect and how we deal with it is an important part of the strategy. How do you counter that? And so a lot of the emphases, a lot of the strategies in the document look at ways of developing morals, across the board, character and so on, to
The
conscience, address this type of thing. I want to say that we are linking with at least 2 NGOs or 2 NGO groups. One is a newly formed NGO called Lifetime Touch Incorporated, which has just been registered and incorporated, and they are going to be rolling out some programs, again getting people to go into the communities and interact with gang members or potential gang members and work with them. There's another USAID funded program called Community Family Youth Resilience, which involves people like Deborah Matthew and Dwayne Eversley and so on. That's a USA program, but I am particularly interested in that because we want to partner. One of the strategies that we have in here, it will come under miscellaneous, but it says a program should be developed for direct communication and interaction, page 36, and interaction with gang members by members of the community with requisite expertise. That is getting people in the community, even if they were ex-gang members, people who have some credibility with gang members, but there may be others, to go and talk with them, because our communities must not just sit back when there's a shooting in the community. They have to be angry.
Yes, the anger I speak about.
The anger has to be proper anger against, not against the police. Because people, somebody that think that what the police, but I'm saying you should be angry at the people who did the shooting.
The injustice committed.
Right? The the CFYR, the Community Family and Youth Resilience Program, they are introducing something called Violence Interrupters, which is going to be funded by USAID, which is going to train people to go and interact with young members or with people who are potentially leaning in that direction and try to help them and so on. So those are two NGO type groups, NGO type organizations that we are going to link up with as part of the strategy. I want to say that there's a board which was formed called the Criminal Justice Strategic Board, chaired by the Attorney General. And that board is going to be charged with monitoring the plan, because the persons on that board are persons who are head of departments, social services, health, community development, police, etc., etc., and they must be able to ensure that the things that are in here are being done and report and get suggestions for continuing. The youth department is a major part of this. We've already had meetings with the youth department because they have outreach with youths around the island, and so we have identified programs that they are doing and how they're going to build this into it. Rehabilitation. When Chaitan was here in January, March, he spoke with prisoners, inmates, or residents, whatever they're now called, who had long prison terms. And he did some good work with them, and other people are working with them. But this time around, we want him to speak with residents who was in here for 2 or 3 years, because they're coming out soon. So the rehabilitation work, which we're going to be engaging in for the next few weeks and months, is going to focus on residents who have short term and who are coming out. Because we have to make sure that when they come out with a different mindset. Okay, I know the commissioner has had discussion with in connection with a police youth camp, which is again part of a big picture. So we're trying to get a youth camp for the 14th to the 27th of August. Again, as another initiative involving the police, but we're involving the community generally to push some of the things we have in here as well as other things. But the section in here, what I've been discussing with the organizers of that youth camp, is that there's a section in here on the web, music,
and media.
And I'm saying, if we got the police youth camp with 200 kids, some of the things in here have to do with developing positive messages and music and so on, and so that's a good 2 weeks that we have some youth together. Let us tape some good messages, some good songs to play on the ear, so that the youth can rather than looking at foolishness on Facebook, at least they have something else. We try something else for them to look at and so on.
You know, that is going to be, you know, you have people are socialized in a particular way, and then if you have to re-socialize them, it becomes very difficult. But it has to be done. A lot of re-socializing basically has to take place. And I suppose
we have to try. I mean, you look on Facebook and you see a lot of negatives, but you also see some prayers, people praying and so on.
Right.
I don't know how many people read them. But you have to try and mix up and suggest, put alternatives for people to read. So we would want to have some, not just on Facebook though, on ZIZ.
Sure.
And so on, some positive messages. And
sure.
I am thinking at this time, I haven't really gone too far on it, but I'm beginning to throw out the suggestion that if we got the youth camp going, one of the things that can be done is to get some good messages developed with a different flavor.
Yes.
To engage youth in a different way.
Mr. Quilly, one of the factors that is fueling crime and driving crime is something that we don't really speak about as such, but it is silence. Silence is fueling crime in communities. People say nothing, and people do nothing. It's almost as though sometimes there is a conspiracy, because you can't tell me that people are not aware of their surroundings, aware of the people in their communities, in terms of who are some of the actors in crime and so on, but yet why are they not coming forward?
I think that's a very useful point that you just raised, the issue of silence. And again, that comes from moral suasion. But the truth be told, persons are fearful because of all this reprisal and revenge that we are seeing happening within our communities. We are saying to the public, and we have said it before, that the police is prepared to protect you if you have to come forward. We have systems in place that can protect you if you come forward. We also said to persons, you can use Crime Stoppers and put that information anonymously. When you do that, you're not even speaking to somebody in St. Kitts. That call is answered in Canada.
But probably even that people don't trust. They probably think you're going to trace the number back to them.
No, because what the number doesn't even show up.
Okay.
An area code shows up, so they know it comes from St. Kitts Nevis, and that's about it.
But the number doesn't show up.
The number doesn't come up at all, and it says 869, which is our area code, and so they can call that and relate the information to the operator, and then those persons, they are given a unique identification number for their use. They can keep, because they may be eligible for reward at the end of it all. And so that information is taken by the operator and passed on to the police, and the police acts on that information without having a clue who supplied that information. So you can give all the details that you need. One of the things we have submitted is legislation in relation to the Witness Protection Program. It's a costly exercise, but we have protected witnesses. We are protecting witnesses in different parts of the world, and we also have in place the legislation from which a person can testify via video conference to the court system and tell their side of the story if they are fearful. But my philosophy has been, and I know a lot of persons may not agree, but there are more good persons in our society than bad persons, and they cannot kill out all the good persons. And if we stand up and get them where they should be when they commit the crimes, behind bars, then we would not see that continued violence being perpetrated, because it is said that one of the biggest deterrent to crime is the capture, prosecution, and conviction of persons who commit the crimes. So if you commit the crime knowing that you'll be likely to be caught and convicted for the crime that you've committed, that has a good deterrent effect. And I can say that we have been moving in the right direction in that regards. We have been moving in the right direction in terms of arresting and charging persons and solving the various murders that we have been having.
Do you find that more people are coming forward?
We are finding-
volunteering information.
We are finding that the community is becoming more engaging, and we make the point every time we have an opportunity to make it. It's no silver bullet. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time to put systems and processes in place, and we are building out. We are building out our systems and processes as we go along.
You see, because I believe if people do not begin to come forward, at the end of the day, more and more people will be affected, communities will be destroyed, and so therefore you really have to choose between either coming forward or being held to ransom.
Well, I can say too, we recognize the fear of crime within our communities, and that is why I applaud the government for actually accepting the recommendation that we would have put forward to invest in the use of technology by means of the CCTV program. And as we speak now, we have engineers here who are doing training in terms of the building out of our capacity in terms of the use of technology and CCTV coverage throughout the country, because we see it, and it is built in our 6-point plan as both a preventative and an investigative tool, so that you will find if persons know that they're likely to be seen, that can act as a deterrent, and that can be a preventative method. And if persons, on the contrary, do not wish to speak and the image is captured, that can serve as an investigative tool. And so it's for that purpose that we have the use of technology on both fronts, both investigative and preventative. And we believe that would seriously complement our crime fighting efforts. From the day I accepted this job, on the interview, I said there are two things I believe that will help us grapple this crime situation. It's the use of technology and the use of the science. And so far, the powers that be have been responding positively to our requests. But again, it does not come overnight, and we would want the communities to understand it doesn't come overnight. It takes time, and we are building out as we go.
Talking about technology, I mean, just today I saw a demonstration of the drone, and because that's another technology which we have invested in and which is going to become part of the armory that the police have at their disposal. But
so the drone takes photos and videos. It's
Yes.
takes photos and videos, and it's quite amazing. But I'm just saying, right now there is training taking place
of the use.
of the use of drones. So a lot of things are happening. As I said at the beginning, it's unfortunate that there are some things which are happening too fast, which are detracting from the efforts which are being made, and I know that we have to try and control those, because nobody wants to hear shooting every day. You have to try and find some way of getting at that. But in my work over the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, since I rolled out this strategy, everywhere I go, there are a lot of things being done. Probably not enough PR, but a lot of efforts are being made to work with disadvantaged boys. But it has to be elevated. And now that I'm rolling out this, the only thing in here which does not, or have not maybe got enough attention or is mental illness. But mental illness is covered in here. It's not one of those things like greed, because you probably can't do much about mental illness on your own, but crimes occur through people who are mentally ill. And so there's a section in here which calls for training on how to, for not just police, but different sectors of the society to deal with the family, the nurses, to deal with people who are mentally ill, so that it doesn't move from just being mentally ill to committing a crime.
Mr. Petty, I think we need to broaden the category of people who are mentally ill. Because really and truly, so you have, people who we normally call crazy and you see them on the street and so on. But there are a lot of people who are mentally ill. Mentally ill in terms of they're psychologically disturbed. But at the very same time, you wouldn't really categorize them as mentally ill, as crazy walking. But the way that they deal with things, the way that they, for example, some of these people who are taking up guns and going, you don't think they're mentally ill? Don't you think so?
Yeah, but
I know.
but those are the people who we're trying to capture in the schools and before they come that far.
The psychopath. This whole thing of psychopathy and so on.
I want to say something about marijuana. In this booklet, I just have 3 paragraphs on marijuana, page 36. Because it was mentioned at the symposium. But I have not really addressed it here because the government has announced a commission. And so whereas we embrace marijuana as part of the strategy, there is going to be a special focus on that elsewhere. So it's mentioned here in this booklet as a matter to be addressed. But it's not something which I am going to be dealing with on my own, or my office. It's something which a commission is going to be set up and they're going to have wide-ranging discussion. So I just want to say that the whole issue of marijuana is part of the strategy, how it's to be dealt with, and all of the decriminalization and all this kind of stuff is part of the strategy in that we have to address it. But
among young people
and
school children,
those are issues which, as I said, came up in the symposium and which have to be addressed, but they're going to be addressed in a bigger way by a commission. Okay. Almost every other crime is captured somewhere in here. And marijuana is not necessarily a crime, but something which can cause a crime or can kill you or whatever.
Yes.
But everything else is captured somewhere in this booklet. I want to say about statistics. There are some major projects taking place on statistics. There is Carry Secure, which is UNDP funded. And so we are going to be collecting statistics, crime statistics over time. But with this strategy, there's a suggestion that we need different kinds of statistics, or we need statistics which relate to the roots of crime that we identify. So that is something in due course which we'll deal with, because the police provide statistics, but it's basically so many robberies, so many this and so many that. But what about bullying? What about crimes which stem from bullying and so on? We need to capture that type of thing in a different way. So that's also part of the strategy, and that will roll out over time. Now, the intention is that each of the stakeholder groups that are listed here will put a time frame on some of the activities. Short as in 1 year, months, medium as in 2 to 3 years, and of course there are 1 or 2 things which may take a little longer, but we hope that within a 2-year period a lot of what we have here could be really built out. Okay?
Now you mentioned earlier, Mr. Petty, in terms of rehabilitation and rehabilitation program in the prison. Could you speak a little bit to that? Because are we seeing a lot of cases of recidivism?
Well, yeah, a few years ago, under the 10 ADF, they actually did a study, and there was a pretty high percentage of recidivism, which is about 25 to 30%. And there are persons who are having programs. We hear a lot about those people are passing GCEs and CXCs and all that kind of thing, which is fine. The kind of rehabilitation that is dealt with in this strategy is that which looks at the mind and try to change the mindset. We not necessarily, although we know that there are broader programs in terms of Tibet, and there's a lot of that going on in the prison, Tibet, because you want people when they leave the prison to leave with skills, which perhaps they didn't go in there with. I have to say I prefer to people to take the opportunity while they're out here before they go to prison. But if for whatever reason they go to the prison, then we have to try and give them some kind of skill. So there's that kind of rehabilitation. But the rehabilitation which, say, Chaitan has been working on is that which relates to the mind, the thinking,
Yes.
how you feel about yourself.
The emotions and so on.
He likes to give an analogy of a butterfly, where you start with an ugly thing which people walk on, a caterpillar. And a few months later that butterfly, that caterpillar turned into a nice, pretty butterfly, and you want to know was it that which came from this caterpillar?
Metamorphosis, it changes.
And what he's saying to them, you can be a butterfly in the prison where you are, as well as people outside could, but right in here you can change, you know. And as I said before,
into something better,
right? The last time he was here, he spoke a lot. He did every week, and New Horizon. I have to include New Horizon because we're also working down there. Also, every week we had sessions in the prison, but this was with the longer term person. This time around, we're going to focus on the person with shorter sentences, and try and make sure that when they come out, they come out with a different mindset than when they went in. Okay.
Mr. Petty, we are going to go to the phone lines.
Okay.
We have some time left, about a little bit of time left. So we'll go to the phone lines. Mr. Quealy, they put on our headphones. I'm sure there are people who want to call in and ask a question or two. We are going to open the phone lines, and the numbers to call are 465-2555. That's the local number, 465-2555. And the overseas number is 1-718-577-2916. 1-718-577-2916. That's the overseas number. We welcome your calls. Working for you, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. William. How are your days, guy?
Good afternoon. Going well, sir.
And good afternoon, Mr. Adman Petty.
Good afternoon, sir.
And the Permanent Secretary of the National Security, right?
Yes.
And good afternoon, Mr. Commissioner Ian Quealy. How are your days, guy?
Good afternoon, my friend.
Yeah, blessed strength to you all. Now, what's happening to the listeners for the radio and internet of ZZ with Working for You, where the government have an information program pursuing to the people of the public. Now, we would like to really stress on some of the things we heard in this discussion about crime strategy fighting initiative, but we realize a lot of things have not really break into this concept of the cycle that bring to our people in this way, how we live in today. And we are facing a pattern of double standard in St. Kitts and Nevis and even in the Caribbean shores. You are free to admit that the Caribbean shores don't promote gun in a factory, but we have a lot of gun. But I heard you, Commissioner, make reference to it earlier, but you didn't specify on what these guns are really pushing, because the CIA and the FBI are a part of the initiative to bring down these guns in these Caribbean shores to create, as we call, tough war or gang-related war. Now, we want to understand this here, basically. Are we serious in fighting crime, or are we just continue pushing the level that the white people, them who have the strategy to pursue weapons in our shores and make sure that they create a population with good reduction, that we people can always be living in fear? So we can always say relying on the police or the army, when the army and the police are the same initiative, quite strategy to destroy our elevation of living as a human being, because really and truly, we are not criminals on here. And I heard you, Mr. Petty, talk about the same marijuana, and you say you don't want to really touch on it much because you understand the government create a marijuana commission, but the government didn't establish the commission fully, and you know that too. The Prime Minister alluded that the commission will be established, but he didn't call out the body in functioning of the commission. He only made mention of one person specifically, and that is the CMO, and that's a disrespect to the whole entire Federation of Thinkers and Youth.
Yes,
you all really need to check out your words when I speak. You know.
Yes, Mr. Petty.
I think I just need to be clear on what I said. I didn't say that there's a commission in place. I said the government has indicated that there will be a commission. And so my discussion here and this strategy I've outlined will not address that, because I will leave that to the commission. So I don't recall saying that there is a commission. I did say the government has indicated that there will be a commission. I know that the CMO has been identified as the chairman,
Yes.
chairperson, and in due course the commission will be identified and begin working. So the point I want to make, if I didn't make it clearly, I apologize, but the point I want to make is that I will not be really dealing in this discussion with marijuana per se. I will be leaving a lot of the issues there to be addressed by the commission when it begins to function. Okay, I just want to be clear on that.
Working for you. Good afternoon.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Williams. Good afternoon, Mr. Creeley and Mr. Petty. This is PWOP.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah,
Good
my
afternoon.
question. Now, do you all think that these modern technology that you all have could really deter the criminal from pulling the trigger with that index finger? Because all these technology here, they only can take the picture and show you who went up so and who passed on so. But as long as you cannot pull back that finger from pulling that trigger, we ain't doing nothing. And the main solution, I don't care who said they don't agree with that. Why when they don't take their gun and they shoot people, they don't walk into the station and say, here is my gun. I just shot Bonanzi dead. And I am fearful of shooting him because they had no mask. So, see my gun here, kill me back. Why they got to be running up and down the place and causing government money to find them? Because nobody wants to die, but they want to kill. And the solution to that is that machine what they got on in 1840. All it needs is crank up. When anybody know that, they're going to hang Bonanzi today. Because Bonanzi killed Botukuma last week. They ain't going to kill nobody. Because nobody wants to be hanged. So my question is this. Why they not using that thing in the prison in there? Crank up. Thanks for listening, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, caller, for your input on the program. And I agree with you that the use of technology will not prevent the trigger. But what we said, that the use of technology, we're saying that conviction is a major deterrent, and the use of technology can help in the conviction of persons. We are also ascribing to the fact that education plays a key role here, and that is why we are saying that education, if we put these at-risk youths in a good place in terms of the education, they would have the understanding of human relations and the moral suasion not to pull the trigger.
Working for you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Williams, and good afternoon to the other gentlemen there on the program. Good afternoon, Carl Brown here.
Good afternoon,
Good
Carl.
afternoon.
Guys, one, we've been putting some effort into fighting crime, but guys, I look at it as we're going backwards. Here's my thing. We have too much protection for the criminal and too little protection for the victim and their families and friends who are left mourning. The law is set out to protect the criminal when the criminal don't commit the act from day one
on up until even the appeal, even all the way to England, the criminal is protected. What about the victim if the victim did not die? Very little attention is paid to that victim who survived that gun attack. And very little attention is even paid to the family of that victim if the victim died. Number two, there must not be no bail whatsoever for these criminals for committing these criminal acts. There must not be no right of bail. Number three, why isn't the prosecutor in the court is asking for the death penalty for many of these vicious acts that is committed by these criminals? We are not fighting crime forwardly, we are fighting crime backwards. And the other point is the court, gentlemen, and the years that our lawmakers make in the court to be given to these criminal guys. We are not putting a dent inside the criminal them. We are contributing more offense for the criminals. And I keep saying to these guys, and I'm going to say it to you all, if we want to put a fear into the criminals and not having them like it's a vacation over at the Marriott, we have to set down 100 years for a gun if you are found dead, 50 years for every round of ammunition, and still the custom sentence must be handed down, because custom is responsible for hear and see anything illegal that comes into the Federation, whether it's legal or illegal. And in the court, I realize that many times you don't hear the custom sentencing for the thing. You will hear, yes, the custom has taken a part along with the police, but what about the custom having a prosecutor in the court to issue out the custom terms and conditions too? All you have is a police prosecutor that do the two jobs. So guys, we are fighting crime backwards, and we are not putting no fear. Because look at it, we just passed the magistrate could give up to 15 years. And it's like we tell the criminals them, since that had been said in Parliament last week, hurrah, go out and do. Look what is happening. We are not putting no fear in the criminals. We are more like giving them a party. So guys, we got to step it up. We are not working hard enough. Go on.
Thank you, Carl.
If I may just make one comment. In terms of the victim, one of the roots of crime outlined in our document is hurt, trauma and grief. And the document, the strategy, provides a lot of suggestions for assisting people to deal with grief, to deal with hurt and trauma. And so, as we go along, we hope we can maybe address the caller's concern in terms of dealing with the victim. Perhaps he's right. I don't know what the government has a counseling center, but I don't know how much they really interact with victims of crime and so on. So, but there is a strategy here which, or part of the strategy, will deal with that, and once we can try and roll it out. So in that respect, I hope we can over the next few months get some improvement.
Working for you, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, distinguished gentlemen. Very interesting program. You should have these people on the radio more often than that, in light of the crime situation in St. Kitts and Nevis. I have a little concern, though. I listened with intent to the ideas about the use of police in community policing, having police going to the primary schools and the secondary schools, and a whole heap of other things. Yes, committing police, yes, to get involved socially or otherwise with the communities. What I'm concerned about, though, with all of this, and the police do need some rest periodically, how do you account for the hours that is going to be occupied by these police? I'm really aiming at asking the question diplomatically. Do you need more forces to do all of this? Is your force large enough to be on the beat, covering the hot spots? Because I believe the police should be in the face. You know where the criminals tend to hang out. I believe the police should be in the face morning, noon, and night. And anytime they move, the police move with them to prevent crime. So can you have these police out there 24/7, keeping an eye on these criminals and doing all these other things that you want with the force that you have in existence? And I agree with the two previous callers that we are much too lenient to the criminals. When we catch them, if our gallows aren't working, I think we use the custom boat, the Ardent and the Stalwart, put the criminals on that boat, those that have been found guilty and condemned for whatever purpose. To hell with the human rights, put some blood in their pocket, sail the customs boat out beyond the horizon, and throw them overboard without a life jacket. Have a pleasant afternoon.
Thank you, caller.
Well, the last one I leave, but let me just say that we are on a drive, the Commissioner and Atlee, we are on a drive to attract police recruits.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, we've sent even down the islands to CARICOM and OECS to get some applications which we are now looking at. And the applications for joining the police force, it's an ongoing process. So we are looking at ways of enhancing the size of the police force. I also say that we are now paying police for overtime work. I take the point that police needs to rest. If, however, they call upon and agree to do some additional work, then overtime payment is now available. And we are also open to former policemen and women who want to do some work. I think that most of those who are calling in, I'm not sure they want to go in the communities. It seems to me they want to work at telecom and that kind of thing. We're not getting too many ex-policemen who want to go in to walk the beat. But the option is there, is open for anybody who wants to come back. But just to answer the call on that point, to say that a heavy recruitment drive is in place to try and increase the size of the police force.
Mr. Quealy, there's quite a number of police officers who are working for you. Good afternoon.
Yes, Mr. William again. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
No, and good day, Mr. Quealy and Mr. Adman Petty, and to the people. I realize the last caller forget about human rights, but let him to know, if he feel like he could violate the human rights, there is a charter signed by United Nations General Assembly. I would like them, because a lot of you previous callers them from the Mr. Culture come down to Cal, and this last one beside me really educating about the value of humanity. I will do making reference about getting money for police to have extra money. But what about people who have jobs? Well, I don't get there's money and create job for the people, then we could fight against crime in those kind of ways too. Y'all ain't thinking really. I only want to see that.
Thank you so much, caller. Thank you.
Let me make a point. I take the point of the caller.
Working for you. Good afternoon, Mr. Petty.
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Sometimes now the police saying that people know. But the people been saying all along that they see two masked men. They always tell the police that I see two masked men, I see a masked man. The cameras are showing the same thing. Two masked men, a masked man, or three, or whatever. The people don't know nothing. Who doing the crime now? Right? Who doing the crime now about it? Because they're involved in the crime. But the people been saying to the police, we see two masked men. What they need to ask you is to, what advice you give to people to protect themselves? Should we just accept bullets? Should all women just be raped and be kidnapped? What must they do to protect themselves? So we just accept bullets and dead, and then the police come and just take away the bodies? And the masked man get away? I mean, what advice the police have for the innocent people in the public who is just, because they're shooting down men and women, they're going in your home, they're going in the hospital, they're going down the bed. All over they're killing people. So, what advice could you give us to protect ourselves? And one other thing is that I think the public could help if the mobile unit that is moving towards a crime gives the public its number so that people could keep in touch with the mobile unit if they see two masked man moving from a crime scene. You know what I mean? If somebody is smart enough to jump in the car and follow them, they'll be able to keep in touch with the mobile unit that is moving around and give them advice as to where they see the people moving, the masked man or the killer moving to. You know what I mean? Down the street, he gone this way, he gone that way. But you keep in a...
Okay.
So, I would like to hear the police on this kind of information that I'm suggesting that I'm making here.
Okay,
yeah.
caller, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Queen.
All right, thank you very much, caller, for your input. We are saying to persons, security starts with you. And so, we must be always cognizant of our surroundings. There are a number of instances where persons are not employing good security, personal and business alike, security measures. And so, a lot of times also, persons get caught up by their very presence in particular places. My advice to persons in terms of protection is to basically be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of your surroundings, because bullets, like you say, have no eyes. The police cannot be everywhere at every time. And so, whenever these persons who are committed their crimes, they seem to have no regard for human life and shoot indiscriminately at their victims. And I want to make the point that the society is alarmed, and every right they have to do so. But if we want to be frank, all of these, or most of these shootings are very targeted. When I say that, what I mean, they are revenge shootings. The persons, so they're targeting one another. They're not targeting innocent persons in the society most of the times. Of course, there are the odd times when innocent persons get involved, but most of the times, revenge from old turf wars or old things that they would have had together. In relation to the point the caller made about the mobile unit and given the number, you can call 911. And as we speak now, like I said, we have the persons who are doing training right now. And that operator has the ability to communicate with you and direct the nearest patrol that is on the ground to that particular crime scene. As a matter of fact, Motorola should be coming back here to complete the last phase of the platform that we have bought from Motorola, in which we would be able to see each of our vehicles outfitted with GPS. And so the 911 operator, when he receives a call, will be able to pinpoint with accuracy where all of the assets of the police are located, and so can direct assets to the various things. We are trying as much as we can to have a very modern police force with all the complements of the technology and the science that will assist us in, if we don't prevent the crime, to solve the crime. So those are the 2 points I would want to make on that.
Mr. Petty.
Thank you. I just want to follow quickly on the one of the callers, the last one I think, who spoke about jobs. One of the One of the roots of crime we had here was hopelessness and desperation. And the strategy does suggest and outline activities where the church and other community leaders, the government, can actively seek to help persons who are in desperation for jobs and so on. It is not clearly outlined. It still needs some work, but the intention is to help people wherever possible to get a job. As an old, as somebody who has been involved in education for years, and I was involved in a lot of technical programs, there are times when people have been put in jobs and leave.
Yes.
Because they say, oh, you work too hard and blah, 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 and all that kind of thing. So we have to be careful sometimes when we talk about people not getting jobs. But generally speaking,
some don't want jobs.
Some don't want jobs, and maybe some feel the job which they end up
some
getting
don't have the right attitude towards work.
So provision is made in here for that. It's work in progress, and we will continue to work with agencies to assist. The Chamber of Industry of Commerce is actively involved, as I speak, with education to try and do some of that same thing to assist people in getting work, job attachments and all kinds of things. The church, some churches have taken on that responsibility to help people, and we are trying to roll out that aspect of it. But it's not something which is going to come fully into effect overnight. We have to work on it. Okay? But it's noted.
Okay. And Mr. Petty, I think, and Mr. Quealy, we are out of time. Is there anything that you would like to say before we leave?
I would like to say that we appreciate the concerns that people have expressed, but from where we stand with this strategy, we realize that if we're going to address it over time, it has to be a community effort, and a lot of the problems are with people who are leaving school. We take on board issues related to work, and if you don't have anything to do, then the devil find work for you to do. But there are persons who have work, and they are working, and they still do the criminal activities. And so every effort is being made to this strategy to go into the community and work with young people. The Commissioner talks about getting youth groups and so on. These are things which are going to receive as much attention as we can over the next few months, to see how many other youth groups, because there's some out there, but we want youth groups and sports clubs to spend some time with their members addressing crime. Not because you're a football club. Bring in somebody to talk to these guys about not smoking, not doing drugs and all those kind of things. I mean, one afternoon of your weekly practice, spend some time on that. So these are all things which we think would help. And so I want to say to the general public that they should support us in the strategy. It does not prevent the police from doing their work. I want the police to do their work. But when all is said and done, it's a community effort which is going to rid us of this scourge that we have at the moment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. I think the program was a very timely program and a very important program as well. And the issue we discussed this afternoon pertaining to the national strategy for the reduction and prevention of crime is in place. I want to say that that is a good balance to mix with the hard policing that is required. As I said earlier during my presentation, there is the hard and soft policing that is required in order to stem this spate of criminal activities. I commend the document. I want to commend the general public who have been assisting the police in their efforts. I want to encourage them to continue to assist the police and to understand that the police is only one facet of the community, which is taking on the fight against crime, and that persons have a social responsibility to play their part, and that they should do so. We encourage you to, if you feel that for some reason you cannot speak to any police officer, speak to your teacher, speak to your pastor, speak to someone, so that we can bring closure and minimize the effects of crime within the community. I also want to use the opportunity to say to persons that we should be sensitive, we should empathize with victims of crimes, and we should pay compassion when persons are victims of crime, because none of us know when we will become victims of crime. And on that note, I would say, if you see something, say something. There's also the Crime Stoppers program that you can call and share your information anonymously. 1-800-TIPS. That's 1-800-8477. Thank you very much for having me, and I appreciate it so much.
Well, I want to thank both of you, Mr. Petty and Mr. Quealy, for appearing on today's show to discuss such a timely, a very important topic, that of how all of us can play a role in terms of reducing, eradicating crime in St. Kitts and Nevis. It would be beneficial to all of us if we take on that role of really socializing our children, the schools, the churches, and the family, which plays such an important role. It is not just the police, it is not just the government, it is all of us. We have to stamp out this thing that is called crime. I want to thank all of our callers, those who called in and shared, those who made suggestions or who asked questions. We thank you very much. This has been another edition of Working For You. I am your host, Lesroy Williams. Have a good day.
Working For You. A weekly talk radio program which highlights developments of national interest and the activities of your St. Kitts Nevis government. Join host Lesroy Williams as he presents news, views, reports, and interviews about everything regarding the activities of the Team Unity government and the building of our communities and the development of St. Kitts Nevis. Tune in and call in to interact with your government and share your views regarding the upward forward development of your community and our beautiful Twin Island Federation. Working For You is weekly, every Wednesday live from 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. on ZIZ Radio, Win FM, and Sugar City FM with rebroadcast on participating stations.